What is up, guys? Rickackis here, and this is a video discussing revolvers as a gun type in Borderlands and why they should add them to either Borderlands the pre-sequel or Borderlands 3. So Borderlands the pre-sequel kind of unfortunately seems to be using a more Borderlands 2 style loot system, so the possibility to add a new gun type at this point of the game, I'm not sure how viable that is, but Borderlands 3 hope still remains. In case you don't know, in Borderlands 1, there was actually two different kind of, pistols. Revolvers were their own separate gun type, and then there was repeating pistols. I think this could kind of be added back into the game because there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of variation that comes with adding revolvers as a gun type and then keeping them separate from repeating pistols. So, in the background, you're going to see revolver-only gameplay in Borderlands 1. Me and a subscriber, Gordon, we'll be playing a lot of Borderlands 1, and you're going to see we drop all our revolvers on the ground. You can see the different kinds. And one of the things you're actually going to notice is some of them, I have one and he has one that have times like 7 or times whatever in the damage. And this was a very important part of revolvers, that they could spawn with the masher barrel that would add the possibility of having like times 6, times 7, even times 8 into the damage, and this made them very, very good. Also, some of them have, 6-round standard, like 6-round revolver cylinders. Some only have 2, but the ones that have 2 do substantial damage. They're doing pretty much as much damage, if not more, than a sniper rifle. So you could have a revolver from anything to from a shotgun with a masher barrel, essentially running around with a one-handed shotgun, to all the way having a 2-round revolver with a scope where they're using essentially as a sniper rifle. So there was great variation in the revolver category. So I'm going to go over the different manufacturers and how each one could make revolvers. So each of these ideas, well, let's start out with Bandit. So for a Bandit revolver, I would just imagine a revolver with a very large cylinder. Like, it would look a little bit ridiculous, and hopefully I'll try to find a picture to put on screen of what that would possibly look like, because there is revolvers. There's like 12-round revolvers in real life, and they look kind of ridiculous, and Borderlands, Gearbox could totally just expand on this idea, and I would imagine Bandit revolvers having 12 or more rounds in a magazine. Big damage. People often I always say, Bandit guns should do a little bit more damage, and then some people say, it's not very Bandit-like to do that. Well, what could be more Bandit-like than just massive damage? Big damage, big magazines is how I imagine Bandit. And then obviously, the fire rate and accuracy would be a little bit lower. I would imagine like a good Bandit, like a purple, really good Bandit revolver, basically being something like 15-20 rounds in a magazine, really, really high damage, but then a decent fire rate, like pretty much kind of as fast as you can pull the trigger, but not quite, but then inaccurate. So you're going to have to go right up into people's faces and start pounding them with this very, very heavy, just really good Bandit revolver, and I would imagine that being very fun in the game. Now, although, like I've just said, I've described a Bandit revolver with Bandit characteristics, especially the big magazine that's like a huge feature of Bandit, you don't necessarily have to do this. Let's remember that all Dahl weapons in Borderlands 2 shoot burst fire, but in Borderlands 1 they didn't. Dahl pistols, Dahl shotguns did not shoot burst fire. Assault rifles did, but that was it. So I'm describing each revolver to their respective manufacturer in those manufacturer characteristics. I would not be upset if those manufacturer characteristics disappeared in Borderlands 3. That being said, if they stay, and they're likely going to stay, I want this idea to still be viable. So again, I'm going to be describing all revolver that the manufacturers make with those manufacturer characteristics. Now, speaking of Dahl, let's go into the Dahl revolver. I'm actually really excited. I think the Dahl revolver would perfectly fit into the game. You have very many real military style revolvers, and keeping with the Dahl burst fire characteristic, I think it would be awesome to have revolvers from anywhere from just 2 rounds in a cylinder all the way up to 8, and 8's kind of the unicorn. It's going to be very unlikely to have 8. Mostly you're going to have somewhere between 2 and 6, but it's going to shoot all of its ammunition in one burst. So if you have a 6-round dull revolver, you press the trigger, it shoots all 6 rounds almost immediately. The rate of fire from these are going to be anywhere from like, we're talking 12 to 20. And people are going to say, 20, that's insane, 20. But in Borderlands 1, you could find stuff with 17, 18 fire rates almost commonly. Like, the fire rates were really insane in Borderlands 1. And judging from the fact that you're going to shoot your entire cylinder in one burst, and then you're going to be faced with a decently long reload. Obviously, you can reduce that by speccing your character a certain way, but then again, you're wasting points speccing your character for reload time when you could be speccing it for something else. So there's always balance and counterbalance, and I think being able to have a really good dull revolver, go up to like a badass bandit or even a super badass bandit with, you know, a really good, I'm talking top of the line purple revolver that you find, and just pressing the trigger once, shooting all 6 or 8 rounds into his head and killing him just with that would be amazing. Obviously, to keep this overpowered, again, it's shooting everything with one burst, so you're then going to be reloading so much. And let's not forget that this is going to use a lot of ammunition. Shooting all 6 with one burst, even if you're fighting just normal bandits that maybe would have died in like 2 or 3 rounds out of those 6 rounds, the other 3 are essentially wasted. So Borderlands 1, one of the things Borderlands 1 did was, you know, revolver ammo, you can never get as much revolver ammo as you could repeater pistol ammo. Repeater pistol ammo, you could have like 1,000 or something. Revolver, it was like 300. So it's kind of like sniper rifles versus assault rifles. There's some good, like, Vladoff automatic sniper rifles that are arguably better than a lot of assault rifles in Borderlands 2. But the disadvantage of using a Vladoff automatic sniper rifle is that you're just going to run out of sniper bullets. Like, you can't use the White Death all day. You're simply going to run out of ammunition. And that's a huge balancing factor. So revolvers should, on average, kind of be better than repeating pistols sometimes, just because their ammunition, the revolver ammo, is going to be more akin to sniper ammo. You just can't get that much of it. And if you're using something like a really good dull one that shoots all 6 rounds immediately, you're going to start running out. So that's another balancing factor to introduce. Now moving on to Hyperion. A Hyperion revolver, I think you could easily just make a revolver that gets more accurate as you shoot it. Simple as that, that would totally fit into the game. However, to add something a little bit more interesting, you know how Hyperion often has the holographic kind of almost pop-up scope that is present on a lot of their SMGs? I think it'd be really awesome is if you had an Hyperion revolver, you would aim down sights, and you know when you aim down sights with a Hyperion weapon that has not been shooting and it really starts to sway all over the screen? I think it would be really awesome if you aim down sights with a Hyperion revolver and it was sway, and then after like 1 or 2 seconds, a holographic sight would pop up, and then the sway would steady, and then you could start like popping off heads from quite far distances. I think that'd be really awesome. Aim down sights, wait a little bit for the pop-up sight to appear, and then your gun is more accurate. That would just be another gimmick, and it doesn't have to be on all Hyperion revolvers, but I think that'd be really neat to have a possibility of a pop-up scope to spawn to then increase your accuracy before even firing a shot. Next, Tediore. Tediore would just be normal revolvers. Everything so far has a gimmick. Let's just have something with normal revolvers. You can get a revolver with 2 rounds that would be very powerful. A revolver with, let's say, 8 rounds that would shoot pretty much as fast as you could pull the trigger. That would be very good. Again, Tediore would just be kind of the normal revolvers. Every once in a while, you would maybe have a masher barrel spawn. You'd get a very good variant of it. But again, it would just be the average, what you think of from a revolver, not really having any sort of gimmick other than, of course, you can throw them when you reload, but just being the everyman revolver. Now, next, we're gonna get this is gonna get slightly confusing because the other manufacturers actually already make revolvers. Like in Borderlands 2, they combined revolvers and repeater pistols. So Maliwan makes only revolvers. It doesn't have any repeating pistols in the game. I would change this. I would have the Maliwan revolvers again spawn, but then be in the revolver category, but then them now being having the chance to make repeater pistols and adding repeater pistols to Maliwan. There really isn't any reason, especially since they're in Borderlands 1, that Maliwan just doesn't make normal repeater pistols, like normal style, you know, M1911 style pistols. that can spawn, you know, have anywhere between a 2 and a 10 fire rate, but are always elemental. Those would totally fit in the game, and then making the very powerful Maliwan revolvers that can still even use up 2 ammunition per shot, but they would be in the revolver category. Now, the thing about Maliwan revolvers is you're definitely going to have to do something to increase the elemental effects in the game. In Borderlands 1, in case you don't know, elemental effects would stack. So let's say you damage a guy with fire, and he would be getting 20 damage a second. 20, 20, 20, 20. If that happened in Borderlands 2, you shot him, you would be getting 20, 20, 20, and you shot him again, and the elemental effect would trigger. It wouldn't really do anything different. In Borderlands 1, if you shot a guy and it was going 20, 20, 20, then you shot him again, the elemental effect triggered again, it would be going 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 2 20s every second now. And then, so you're essentially doing 40 damage now. And if you triggered another elemental effect, you're doing 3 20s, so 60. So elemental effects would stack on top of each other, making elemental guns insanely good. You're either going to have to up the possibility of having really good elemental effects in Borderlands 2, or reintroduce the elemental stacking feature to really make elemental guns good. Now, I can actually stop here. I've given an idea for Bandit, Doll, Hyperion, Tediore, and Maliwan. I could stop here because there's only 5 manufacturers. There's only 5 manufacturers that make assault rifles in Borderlands 2. But I'm not going to stop there. I want to continue the customization and loot of the game, so I'm not going to settle at good enough. I'm going to keep going and give my ideas for Jakobs, Torgue, and Vladov. So Jakobs, right now, again, it's like Maliwan, it shoots revolvers. I would definitely increase the damage of the revolvers. It seems like I kind of miss the really old school Jakobs revolvers in Borderlands 1 where they just did massive damage, like rivaled and were often better than sniper rifles. And again, the addition of a masher barrel was super important. You would be absolutely ecstatic to find a really good Jakobs revolver with a masher barrel. It would be doing phenomenal damage. I really want this to be reintroduced in the next Borderlands, and then just have Jakobs repeating pistols. Now, to keep with the theme of Jakobs, I would easily think that they would be kind of, when I think of if Jakobs made a repeating pistol, it would be the old kind of German Ruger designed, really old school pistol. And again, I'll try to find a non-copyrighted picture to put up for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. But again, that would totally fit in the game. Let's make the Jakobs repeater pistols the ones that you shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger. The revolvers maybe have slower fire rate, but again, substantially more damage. Torgue, honestly, I would not be upset with no repeating pistol for Torgue. Its guns should move into the revolver category, but really add the advantage to have a masher barrel. Again, all of these, it's super important that all of these, you know, revolver ideas should be able to spawn with a masher barrel that gives anywhere from ×5 to ×8 in the damage, and that would just make, it's the difference between finding a really cool Doll burst fire revolver, you're like, this is good. Then you find one with the masher barrel, and then you're like, holy shit, this is next level. Really going to increase replayability once we have these really good possibilities to spawn amazing purples. But again, Torgue, I can understand if it doesn't shoot a repeating pistol gun type, but we should bring its guns from pistols into the revolver category. Now for Vladov, I legitimately cannot think of an idea for Vladov. It doesn't really make sense if we're going to stick with the manufacturer boundaries. Vladov is all about fire rate, and there really isn't too many amazing ideas for a really good fire rate Vladov. If anyone has any ideas for what a Vladov revolver would be, please put it in the comments. I am definitely willing to hear you. But at the end of this video, again, there's more than enough ideas. I could have stopped after Maliwan, but Jakobs could totally be the variation of both 2, and Torgue should be brought over to Revolver as well, that there could be 2 different categories, Revolver and repeating pistol. That could totally exist in Borderlands 3 with no gripe and an increase to the possibility of loot and loot variation in the game. Now, a second spin on my idea is that everything I just said for the possibility of revolvers could basically just been moved into in pistols. We don't add a revolver category, but all these different ideas be able to spawn just as pistols, but they'll just be like have the appearance of being revolvers. They'll just be in the pistol category. AKA, let's have some more variation in loot. because it really lacks in Borderlands 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. Rate, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a good day.